John's the guy who told us about the diet. First place.
Who is?
Remember John?
Oh, yeah,
John?
that's right, yeah.
She told him about
Called me up raving about it, and the same day somebody called Barbara that Barbara had been going to hospitals regularly, and this other lady was going to the same hospital, so they got to know each other. And that lady had heart surgery, and they used some kind of something or other to heal up something from her leg, a vein from her leg, and that wouldn't heal. So 8 days into the diet, and her leg healed. And so this lady was all exuberated, and just called Barbara.
No, we're going to start right now. Yeah.
It was the same day that John called me, so we figured there's got to be something to this.
Yes.
You always hear about it from two different people on the same day.
It's a sign.
Okay, this is $25. All right. First I'm going to talk about, everybody sees that I'm a little swollen over here and sagging. Friday night, I started going into a heavy detoxification. I was bugged in Bangkok 3 years ago in December. And I was hit with a crowbar here. They were trying to get my movie camera. And they knocked the bone with the teeth connected from here to here all the way back under my tongue. So it took an hour of surgery to pull it back, to wire my jaw and to wire the teeth back in. They wanted to just cut the bone out. They said it will never heal. The tube of nerves that went to the teeth was severed in two places, and they say that will never reconnect. The tooth and the bone will rot, and it'll kill you because it can go to the brain. I said, you don't know me, and you don't know my diet. So if it goes into necrosis, I will have it removed after so many weeks. So they put it back in place, and
Wow.
my teeth are there, and the bone's solid. But I accepted Novocaine, which is something I don't do, and I accepted it because the pain was so excruciating. Because I had to pull the bone all the way from under my tongue and pull it back and work it back in because they had stretched it out of place. So pulling the jaw apart and putting the bone in, and it was pretty painful, so I allowed them to give me 6 shots of Novocaine. So the Novocaine lodged here in the bone, and it started popping out on Friday. So Saturday, this thing was this big, and it's already gone down to this already. So now, when I had Novocaine in the past, pre-1972, the Novocaine, when it would come out, I'd have a detox like this that would last sometimes for 2 weeks.
Wow.
21 days, 3 weeks. So this is very quick. It was very painful for 1 day. But I saw patients yesterday, did a lot of work yesterday, so, I'm getting healthier and healthier and healthier, even though I'm turning 60 in 2 months. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, we should be able to go around a few times. Usually it's one time. So I'm going to start over here this time. Do you have a question? Richard, right?
Yes. I haven't totally got into your full raw food diet yet, but I drink raw milk with honey 3 to 5 times a day, 16 ounces. Is there any detrimental effect to that, or?
You mean as far as the amount of milk?
Milk and or honey.
That should be fine for a while. I mean, if you're on the diet for probably 4 or 5 years, then too much honey, you have to watch the amount of honey that you consume according to the amount of meat that you're eating, because it can cause a protein deficiency.
Okay, so maybe
But right now, that's fine.
lower the honey down and up my meat.
Yeah. Well, also, I drink one of these a day minimum.
Okay.
Half a gallon of milk, even up to 3 quarts of milk some days. Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, good.
All right. Abraham, do you have a? Okay. Bonnie, do you have a question?
I do. So moving into a new house with a lot of people that are going to live in the house, and our water system. I don't really drink water. What I do drink is some Pellegrino every once in a while. Sometimes I'll drink some distilled water, but rarely. But water is going to be utilized because they don't eat raw as much as I do, and so what kind of water is best? The system in the house? What's the water in the pipes? Bottled water in plastic? What?
Where do you live?
It's going to be near Las Virgenes and Cayuma.
Okay. That water's already been used twice by industry in Saugus, here in the valley, and then it goes the third time is the LA area. And Malibu is on the LA area branch. So it's the chemicals that are in the water from industry. And everybody dumping their paint and chemicals and nail polish remover and everything goes into our water system is still in the water. They take out all the germs, the bacteria, which I don't give a shit about, The chemicals that they leave is the problem. So it's good to have a 3-tier system, if you're going to do anything with the water. And a 3-tier system means that there are 3 different canisters that it has to go through. And the first can be charcoal. The reason I say it's the first is because charcoal has mercury in it. So you don't want the mercury to pass with the water into your system. So it goes through the charcoal first because it pulls out a lot of toxins, a lot of toxic metals and other minerals, chemicals. Then through a sand, I have a sand filter, it goes through the sand there, and then a paper filter after that.
So that would be preferable than a bottled water or something like that?
Well, people are going to shower in it, and not put those ingredients in the water. That would definitely be the best way to go.
So
and the only water I know that's any good is Mountain Valley. They take into the home, very expensive. And Hinckley and Schmidt used to have unprocessed water, but I'm not sure anymore.
What about reverse osmosis?
And reverse osmosis doesn't take out chemicals.
No, it doesn't.
No.
What about chlorine?
It removes the heavy metals and stuff like that. It'll remove chlorine.
Do you know what company has 3-tier system?
Well, the particular one that I suggest, nobody has it. You have to take the 3-tier system and make it your own. You have to put the sand in the one. Well, they do have the charcoal and they do have the paper filters, but the center one, and they have it reversed. They usually use the charcoal as the last. But the charcoal's the first, the sand is the second, and
Can we request them to set it up for us?
yeah, absolutely.
In this the way we want it?
Yeah, but they probably don't even have a sand filter, but you can ask.
And how do you get that?
Well, you just have to buy the sand or go to a nice beach and get it.
And buy a filter yourself, or have their...
Well, no, they have the 3-tier system. It's that you pull their filter out of it and put your sand in it.
Oh, okay. I see.
How often would you change the material in the filter?
Usually every 3 months.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
And again, the sand doesn't...
And they will come out and do it every 3 months. I did it to my house in Venice when I was in Venice.
And again, what the sand does what?
The sand filters out a lot. Now, in my hot tub that I have, that I built, I got a 300-pound Hayward sand filter, which is big enough to take care of a swimming pool. But I didn't want to clean and change the sand every year in my hot tub, and I don't put any chemicals in it, so I have all this algae that grows on the concrete walls that I had built in this hot tub. So I like that algae. It's nice and thick and hairy. water stays crystal clear
Yeah.
because of the sand filter. It cleans every bit of everything out of it. So it cleans and filters very well, but it allows the algae to grow. And it's an excellent filter. It'll pull out almost anything. Okay? Abraham, yes.
Since she asked about water, mine is very short. Arrowhead, which is not good. If you add apple cider vinegar to it, could you drink it?
I wouldn't drink it. No.
So it has to be.
Just remember that all of Arrowhead water is reclaimed. See, the city of San Bernardino has a contract, indefinite, lifetime, 99-year contract for all of the Arrowhead water. So Arrowhead reclaims it after the city of San Bernardino uses it, full of all the chemicals and everything from the industry, rebottles it and sells it to you as fresh spring water when it isn't.
So
San Bernardino owns it.
So my question is, doesn't the vinegar dilute the...
It'll help neutralize some of those toxins, but that's for a bath, not to drink. I never recommend drinking city water, municipal water anywhere.
So what water, if you were to drink water, what would you drink?
Gerolsteiner,
Gerolsteiner.
Yeah.
Where do you get that? Gerolsteiner.
any store.
Trader Joe's. No, that's not too medication.
Trader Joe's is cheaper.
Health food stores have it.
That's $1.79 at a health food store, but in regular grocery markets. But if you go to Trader Joe's, you can buy it by the case for something like $1.20 a piece.
Why do you like it?
It's got the most carbon in it, natural carbon. In those kind of wells, the water sits on the bottom and the upper layer is carbon dioxide. So they pump the two in together. Perrier, Ramlusa, San Pellegrino, San Faustino, Apollinaris, all of those naturally carbonated waters are all made from those wells. Now Perrier, their carbon's gone from their well, so they're buying from Gerolsteiner. They were putting artificial carbonation, just like in soda pops, in there, and then they got reamed for it. They started losing tremendous amount of business. So then they went to Gerolsteiner, which has so much carbon that they're able to sell it and have excess. But if you open a Gerolsteiner bottle, wow, the bubbles in it are, it's phenomenal. Like I said in the book, in my tests with those naturally carbonated waters, it raised the nitrogen level in the intestinal tract and raised the oxygen level in the blood. So, but I don't drink water I've probably had a half a cup of water in the last month. When I'm in Asia and can't get much milk, I will drink about 2 cups a day. Besides my juice, I still will make juice. But I can't get milk in Asia. Unless I'm in Singapore, I get the raw milk from Australia. But it's called, what is it called? Cleopatra's bath milk. That's how they sell it, this milk for bathing in, not for drinking. So that's what I get there. In different parts of Malaysia and Bali, I can get that there. But in northern Asia and Laos, Cambodia, Vietnam, China, I can't get it there unless I find a farmer. So.
Can I still ask regarding water? Or
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Any comments about James Hobson and his water additives to distilled water and testing the water climate inside of our bodies? And do you know anything about that?
Yes, I do. He has no idea. He has no idea about testing. He's just accepting other people who are selling the products, and I don't believe any of them. Until I've tested something, I don't believe it. Because I've just seen too much biased way of thinking and not considering everything. Water is a solvent. The more things you put into it, the more damage it's going to do to your system. How many people saw the rabbit-proof fence?
Here.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
It's about the Australian kids, mainly girls, they're part are Aborigine and part British. So the British government comes in and says, we can't have our partially British girls living with their primitive mothers who are Aborigines, so they take the children away from their mothers and put them in these Catholic orphanages. And they're brutal and mean and, no love or anything. And instead of with these wonderful, loving Aborigine mothers.
It was the same psychiatrist, actually, in psychiatry. And they go into the idea of racial purity.
Same garbage.
30s.
Yeah. So these three little girls run away. The oldest one is something like 12, 13, something like that, and then they get younger, all the way down to about the age of, I think, 8 or 7. Yeah. So these three little girls run away, never drink a drop of water. They hike 2,100 miles through up to 140 degrees in the bush, and they break off branches and let the vegetable juice drop into their mouth, or they dug up a root and they wrung the vegetable juice out of it. They go through a whole day of hiking on 4 ounces of vegetable juice. That's the way all animal bodies are made, except for the camel and the elephant. Those are the only 2 animals who are geared to hold water and utilize it properly. A camel can hold 25 gallons of water and won't have to drink for 20 days, 25 days. Elephant can hold up to 200 gallons of water and not have to drink for a month to 40 days. So those animals are very different from human animals. Human animals are not built to drink water. Back in the 40s and 50s, when I was a child, you didn't drink water. If you went to the fountain, I didn't drink water until I went to school. And then you just went to the fountain, took 3 sips a day. And then all of a sudden the 60s come around, bottled water comes into fashion. All of a sudden, 8 glasses of water a day, 8 glasses of water a day. That was the programming. The more of that you drink, the more soda pop you will drink, the more water you will drink, and it just dissolves the whole system. It leaches. Rain is water. It comes down, it dissolves the earth so that plants can eat. It dissolves rock. So when it comes into the body, it leaches all the good nutrients out of the intestines, your stomach walls, your mucus lining, everything, and dries out your system. Your body the cells can only absorb 10% of that water, and then that causes the same interaction, intracellular dehydration. So we're not meant to drink water.
I have to say something about that.
Yeah.
One time, years ago, I thought water, eureka, I found it. So I was drinking 8 ounces every 15 minutes for hours and hours during the day, and was thirsty.
All the time.
Thirsty.
All the time.
Completely thirsty.
Yeah. When I lived outdoors on a bicycle, I drank 2 gallons a day. And when I hit the desert, I nearly died.
Wow.
I had to bicycle through the desert, Mojave Desert, and it wasn't even summer because it's illegal. You cannot go through the Mojave Desert unless you sneak into it, because they just block off the whole place and don't allow anybody in there but residents who live there. And I nearly died. And I still had a gallon of water with me. And it wasn't enough. I just kept going after because I was already dehydrated. You have to be lipidated. Fats need to be in your body with lots of minerals to hold the fluids intact. You shouldn't be transferring many fluids. You look at the animals in the wild, they pee maybe an ounce at a time, a tablespoon at a time. You see the coyotes spit out a tablespoon of urine at a time. Very little urine do they pass. Here we stand there, we pee for how long? 30, 40 seconds a minute, and it's insane. We're just wiping and washing out all these nutrients out of our body. It's not natural.
Yes, women can't relate to that little example you just gave.
Okay, you sit and and it comes out very quickly like a horse.
That's very good. I can relate to that.
And you may pee a cup, 2 cups at a time. That's a lot of fluid. We should be only putting out a teaspoon or a tablespoon at a time every 5 hours. That's all.
In Iran, when I was a kid, we were playing 3 hours of soccer every day, 9 to 12, in that hot weather.
Yeah, in Iran, right? Yeah, in Iran. Very little water.
Do you still pee a lot? Or
Well, I drink so much milk for the minerals that I do pee probably about half of what I drink. When I'm in Asia and I'm not drinking a lot of milk and I'm drinking the minimal amount of water, I'm peeing just a little bit.
I feel very good drinking water. Like sometimes I'm tired or my back aches, and I drink a glass of water or half a glass, and I get it's revived.
Well, your blood may be getting so thick, that it helps thin your blood so that things can work a little bit better. You may have a high sugar content in your blood, but it's not the best way to do it. The best way to do it is do a good diet, But we're talking about optimal here, But yes, water works in that situation, and everybody needs a little water, but not as much water as we're drinking. And I stay away from water unless I have to. Unless I have nothing else. So I don't have milk.
Do you know this water in Niagara?
Yeah.
You think it's good?
Again, it's a processed filtered water that's like the Arrowhead water. It's not really pure. The only pure waters that you can get are all those that are naturally carbonated.
And if you leave it open to lose some of the gas, is it right to drink after?
That's fine. The gas isn't that important. It just helps, generate more oxygen in the blood eventually once it turns into nitrogen in the intestines from carbon dioxide and that whole process. It is kind of a slight antiseptic because the carbon dioxide is a kind of what do they call that? Hydrogen peroxide. It's like if you get a stain, let's say you get something with blood on it, and you just put the carbonated water on it, stains come right out. It'll bleach your material if you don't wash it out with plain water. So if you get that carbon out, it won't have that type of reaction again. So it helps clear and clarify some things in the body. That's the only water that I drink. Okay, you're welcome. Jackie, you have a question?
Yeah, I think you might have covered this at the workshop a little bit. But like when you read an ingredients list on something and it says that they, it's all natural organic, but they added things like riboflavin and folic acid because they're vitamins. What is that coming from?
Those are chemically formulated. They're not natural. What they've done, and they're never complete and correct. Riboflavin might have 42 components to make it up. They may put a third of that, 2/3 of that component in there called riboflavin. Did I mention what vitamin E is at the workshop?
Yeah.
99% of vitamin E is the byproduct of Fiji and Kodak's developing a film. And it is a highly toxic substance. And they used to have to bury it in 12-foot thick concrete tombs in the ground in stainless steel barrels. It's costing them hundreds of millions of dollars a year just because in Japan they used to just dump it into the into the surrounding bays and water. 40 years ago, you could drop your film into the local bay and it would develop. It was that bad. And the cancer rate started escalating very high, so they stopped it. So Kodak and Fuji, were at an impasse there. So they had to start burying everything. Well, Kodak's been that way for a long time. And then one of their scientists, they kept hiring scientists to try to neutralize and clean up that chemical so that it could be recycled or at least let into the earth somewhere. So when it got into the water system, it wouldn't damage it. They couldn't do it. One of the scientists said, it's 72% like vitamin E. Let's call it vitamin E and get everybody to drink it. Eat it. Let's sell it as vitamin E. So they call it alpha tocopherol, or just tocopherol, and D-alpha tocopherol is the true food vitamin E. So that's the way they put it. So FDA said, okay. So now 99% of the vitamin E, even the so-called natural in your vitamin stores, they'll put 5 international units of the natural, mostly from soy, which is toxic anyway, very toxic, because the oils that are so poisonous to fowl, the poultry community and the human community, is in the oil, the poisons. So they have to chemically alter that oil. That's what the vitamin E is. So you've got a chemical again in it, a solvent in it, and a neutralizer. So those 5 units in your 95 units that come directly from Fuji and Kodak are in there, plus these processed so-called natural 5 international units. That's what you're taking. To show you what damage it can do, when I was working in Antilles in Beverly Hills, the big one, Diane Cannon used to come in and buy 2 to 3 bottles of vitamin E a week. And I tried to talk her out of it. But she was sold on it. It just made her skin very translucent and beautiful. But it also did that to her whole nervous system. So did anybody see her biography? Or movie of the week biography about 10 years ago? She became a complete basket case. All kinds of psychological problems, drug problems into there from that. And her skin got so thin and she still couldn't stop her from taking it. And that was after 2 years of taking it a tremendous amount every day. Her skin, you could just take it like this and it would tear. And she thought that she had some kind of disease, and I said, it's vitamin E. She could not believe that they would allow Kodak and Fuji to sell this chemical that was poisoning. You have to understand that a lot of people don't believe what industry will do to make a buck. And they don't care what happens to you.
Right.
They really don't. Okay. Did that answer all of your questions?
Yeah, but if it's all this chemical, why do they bother putting it in like cereal? What's the point of this?
You have to understand the damage that they do when they process a cereal to make it into a long shelf-lasting food. There's nothing alive left in it. They destroy all the vitamins in it. So then what they do is, we came into this in the 60s, we got into the nutrient-rich food. Now, when it first came out, it was
Kellogg's.
Pardon?
Kellogg's.
No, I'm talking about that senator who ran for presidency against Nixon. McGovern. McGovern came out and he was the head of the Committee on Nutrition. And he said, we have to have chemically free food, we need to do this and do this and do that, eat less red meat and stuff like that. He was from Iowa, and that's a farming state. So he got them crazy. And of course he didn't win the election. The next election is senator or anything else. He didn't win the election because the whole farming communities in the states were against him. From that incident, it became a nutrient science. Well, this has vitamins in it, this has vitamin A, this has vitamin D, and they forgot all the other nutrients. They would plug just certain vitamins and certain nutrients. And they would sell you on that. Oh, this has got this and this and this food. And it's a sales pitch. It's to get you to buy it when it's no good. Anything that claims we've got good nutrients in this, it's a stay away from it as far as you can away from it. Because it's one of the worst foods you can buy. It has no nutrient value, and they're putting just a few in, and they're chemical too, and they're just selling you a product. That's what it's all about. All those third world countries, all the care packages you send, all the care you give, they go to Kellogg and Purina and General Foods and buy the worst cereals in the world, powder milks, give it with water to these third world children. They get tapeworms, they get diabetes, they have all these kind of diseases, and they kill them.
I was a victim of that.
Pardon?
I was a victim of that.
Yeah. Terrible. It's terrible. Is that good enough? Okay.
Fair enough.
What are your organ meats of choice?
It all depends on what you have wrong in your body, what your body needs. If you know what organs and glands are weak, those are the ones to go for. If you've got a severe protein deficiency, go for liver, because the liver and the heart are the most concentrated in protein. The heart doesn't have all the bile and fat digesting enzymes and activity that the liver does. So the liver helps you if you have a poor digestion of fats, you over metabolize fats because you're not digesting fats quickly enough. The liver is the thing to eat.
The liver is the thing to eat. From what animal?
Doesn't matter.
Chicken?
Doesn't matter. Any animal whatsoever. It can be a gopher. Greasy, grimy gopher guts.
But you said only eat organ meat from organic?
No, I said glands from organic.
Oh, glands.
Glands from organic.
Is the liver not a gland?
No, it's an organ.
It's an organ. So you could eat liver that's not organic then?
Yeah, I wouldn't, but yeah, you could.
What if it was a soy-fed animal?
I wouldn't touch it.
No.
Well, wait a minute. Cows and herbivores can eat soy, raw soy. It just doesn't taste very good. The meat tastes like postage stamps. This is odd taste. I don't know. When you were a child, did you get corn-fed animals at all? Corn-fed chicken and corn-fed beef. My grandparents raised them. We had 52 acres of corn that we raised every year. And we fed that to the dairy, because they owned a dairy farm that fed all the cities within 100 miles west of Chicago. And we fed the cows corn during milking, and then grass that we grew, on some other acres. That was their silage. And we had what do you call it? A silage tube that was about, pardon? Silo. That was about 55 feet high, and we fill it every year with corn. And we just take the husks off because it would, would not, if you leave the husk on, it has a tendency to mold, mildew. So we just take that off, but leave the corn on the cob and then give it to the cows because the cows love that center of the cob is like sugar cane. So it's really sweet. And the corn, they could digest the corn and make it into an acetone, an acetate, which is a fat substance. So it would make that, it's like chickens that are fed corn. It makes that very yellow fat. It's so tasty. And you can't get that with soy.
You get it very white.
White, and it's also very toxic because humans and poultry cannot eat raw soy. It has an enzymes which will destroy, will kill us and kill them. So it has to be heat treated and chemically treated to feed. So if cows eat it, I'll eat it, but it won't be as tasty. They feed it to birds. I try to stay away from, any poultry that is fed more than 25% soy, I won't eat it. And if I had my druthers, I wouldn't eat any poultry or eggs that were made from soy or grown on soy.
So back to what he asked, from what animals do you recommend? Like what farms or what kind of?
Well, I get most of my meats from the Amish farmers who grow more naturally and aren't heavy into soy.
About the question, in whole food, when you buy a whole chicken, the organs come with it. Rocky chicken, can you eat those?
Well, they don't come with everything. They come with a few things. They come with the neck, gizzard, heart, and liver, and that's it. But you can eat those. Like I say, the Rockies feeds theirs 25% soy, so it's not best. But the so-called rosy organic, it's a lie.
And the Marys, now they're selling Marys, they're running out of Rocky.
They're running out of Rocky?
They say it's the same
thing. They almost don't have any Rocky.
Yeah, there's only one Whole Foods that carries Rocky, which is, they've all given up Rocky, they're all carrying Marys now.
I haven't talked with Mary, so I don't know. But if Whole Foods is selling it, it's shit.
I did ask them if they are feeding Mary's soy.
Yeah.
But I
how
asked
much?
Whole Foods. Yeah,
that's what you have to find out how much. See, when I called organic, Rosy Organic, I said, you're feeding them 75% soy? And I said, wait a minute, you can't feed soy raw to chickens. You have to chemically and heat treat it. Yeah, but the soy was grown organically. But I said, once you treat the soy and you're feeding them the chemical soy, it's no longer organic. Right. Well, the FDA lets us call it that. Exactly. I said, well, let's talk about ethics here. Wow. They have none. They don't give a shit. They're selling an item, and if they can call it anything they want to call it to make it sell, they will do it.
And the Lily's farm?
Pardon?
Lily's? The farm Lily's?
Lily's?
Yeah, the one on the...
Yeah, that they feed there some soy, about 20-25%.
What chicken do you eat?
I eat from a chicken farm that doesn't feed theirs any soy.
From James Stewart?
Yeah, from James, yeah. Either that or Rocky. Those two I eat.
Or the same people who have the eggs?
Those are the people that have the chickens, yeah.
So chickens eat grain?
Yeah, chickens eat grains. Lots of that's for the birds. Grains are for the birds. That's who eats grains on this planet, mainly, are birds. I've seen cows out in the pasture. As soon as the grains dry on the grass and it hits the ground, that's the first thing they'll suck up. But they may get no more than 2 cups of grain a day, and that's what they're usually fed at milking time. So that's fine.
Can I go back to the water question the Chief had? One is, I sometimes drink whey, just a little bit of whey. But that's okay.
Not really. You have to be careful with that too. It's very acidic. Whey is very acidic. Whey is when you separate the curds from the liquid. It looks kind of like a chartreuse color, kind of greenish yellow. That's whey. That's the liquid. It's very concentrated in lactic acid, so it helps break down minerals that clump together that can cause stones, and it also helps neutralize uric acid that builds up in the muscles. It causes muscle cramps. You know, when people are exercising a lot, or they have poor cleansing after heavy metabolism or exercise, and they get Charlie horses. That's from uric acid building up in the muscles, and then the muscle gets so acidic from it, it contracts. Well, the whey and the lactic acid in it helps neutralize that the uric acid. They're both acids, so it creates an acidic condition. It can start dissolving cells, start dissolving your muscles. That's why those people who take all that whey powder to build with muscles, as soon as they stop exercising, all of a sudden everything goes sag. Because they've melted everything, you're just pumped up with all this mineral toxicity, bloated with all this mineral toxicity. Once they stop, that's it. I mean, look at Arnold Schwarzenegger. Anybody see that?
Yeah, I saw
picture of him?
Yeah, right.
Oh my God.
Side by side with when he was Mr. Universe and what he looks like now.
Right, yeah. I mean, you're talking 50 years difference or 40 years difference. And, you know, this guy still works out and stuff is just sagging, you know. I don't work out at all. I haven't worked out since 1979. And everything is just tight as it can be. And this is my exercise, you know, on my computer. I do carry my groceries once a week, you know, carry some milk. That's it.
So the yogurt is good. Like I got this.
Let's go around. Did I answer everything that you need?
How do you prepare spleen? How do you prepare your organs? Do you blenderize them?
Oh, prepare organs?
Yeah.
I just go right into them. I don't.
There's recipes in the recipe book.
Yeah, I have some recipes in the recipe book how you can eat them. But I'm a very bland eater. My mother never used, you know, rarely ever used seasoning. So I was not developed with seasoning taste. In fact, they usually make me ill. And I can't take many seasonings. So I usually eat everything plain, even insects, you know. So, you're asking me about seasonings. I used to be a gourmet chef. I would take 5 to 6 hours to make poulet de grain à la niçoise, which is a dish that you have to do all these many different steps. And that takes the average person about 7 hours to make. I could do it in 5.5 hours because I was pretty fast with it. But you have to wait till it cooks, and you have to cook it in different stages with different foods to make it really nice. I mean, it was superb, you know. And that's what I used to do before I got into raw foods. You know, as a matter of, that was my hobby, was cooking. But then when I got into raw foods, everything was so tasty compared, because when you cook a food, it destroys the taste buds in it. Everything that was alive, it breaks it down and goes flat. That's why they add all this salt and all these flavorings to everything, because once you process and cook a food, it's cardboard. It tastes like cardboard. There's no flavor. So, of course, they have to flavor it to get you to eat it. So, I eat this straight. The only thing I really don't like and don't like to eat alone without some kind of spice with it is kidney, because of the ammonia. I hate the taste of ammonia. You know? It just tastes terrible. Kidney tastes terrible to me. So I'll either blend it with a lot of other glands. And those glands are very good. When I was in Nevada City, I had a friend who shot a deer. I butchered it, so I took brain and I took all the glands and everything and made a big milkshake. I mean, a gland shake with all this mixture. And, you know, I had done a workshop in 2 days of consults all the way from the morning, late, 8 o'clock in the morning till 11 o'clock at night. And then a few that day And I was supposed to get some rest, take a nap, and go pick up my girlfriend at Reno Airport. So that was about a hour and a half, 2-hour drive. It was going to be in the evening at night. And because he shot this deer, I had to butcher it because nobody else knew how to skin and butcher a deer or any animal. None of these people had seen a farm, much less know what to do. So I butchered this deer and put all the glands in. So I didn't get my nap because I spent 3 hours skinning and butchering this whole deer, including getting the brain out. And which is still pretty fast because your average person wouldn't know how to do it. It could take 6 to 12 hours to do it, and I did it in 3 hours. Of course, I butchered a lot, so I just knew it, go through it, all the parts, butchered the in the steaks and everything. Had the entire thing butchered in 3 hours. Every piece of it, every section. So made that glandular shake. So I had about 1.5 cups, the glandular shake. I got so high, got to the Reno airport, picked up my girlfriend, didn't get to the hotel till like 2 o'clock in the morning, and we had sex for 3 hours. And I still didn't want to go to sleep, but she was really tired. So that's what that kind of shake can do for you. It can really drive the energy up, all kinds of energy. So.
What was the recipe?
I said the recipe, but anything else?
That's it.
Okay. Do you have a question, John?
Well, yeah, a few. I'll start. We don't have time forever, but when you're on the subject of water that we brought up, if you're thirsty but you're not hungry.
Okay. Again, what are you determining as thirst?
Wanting, having
your mouth is dry. Your mouth is dry.
Well, it's stomach. It's not just mouth.
Yeah.
My mouth's dry, but
then drink milk.
But I get too fat. They just put on fat, and it just even when I drink the kefir, and then I add weight, and I feel sluggish. I don't have energy. I don't get energy. So. Is it vegetable juice or certain types of vegetable juice?
Will help. Will make it better. Just drink celery. Mm-hmm. Celery juice.
In your book said you drink water when you're thirsty.
Well, I tell everybody to eat tomatoes, eat some tomato drink that you put a little lemon in, a little vinegar, some cream. I've got one professional tennis player that I have her drinking cucumber juice, straight cucumber juice with a little bit of coconut cream and a little bit of dairy cream in it. And that hydrates her. She only has a quart a day, and she can play all day long on just a quart a day. You see those other tennis players downing, a gallon and a half a day. So she only puts down a quart a day. And this is a woman who's 6 foot tall, Canadian tennis player. So she's really up there. So that's the kind of thing to do. Look for other things other than water.
Okay.
That are nutrient deficient.
Like cucumbers.
I just want to say, I once asked you this question too, and ever since you gave me the answer, I've been doing it ever since. Is I eat cucumbers and tomatoes.
There you go.
And I just came from the market. I just bought 9 baskets of the organic tomatoes. I carry them everywhere.
And that keeps you from drinking all that water.
Yeah, and I make bags of organic cucumbers.
Yeah.
And peel them, and that's what I eat.
Yeah.
When I'm thirsty.
Peel them?
I peel the cucumber.
Because you're taking down the cucumber and you don't want all those peels. It'll turn your digestive tract alkaline. You won't be able to digest your meats and your dairy as well.
But for your vegetable juice, you don't have to peel them?
No, because you're extracting the pulp. And anybody who has really rich green bowel movements, you need to filter your juice.
Oh, it shouldn't be that green.
Not unless you're throwing off some gangrenous tissue. But then it'll be a gray green, not a bright green. A rich green, that's too much cellulose from your vegetable juice.
So the handle is to peel the vegetables then? It's too green?
No. You just have to filter your juice.
Just get like a coffee filter or something like that?
No, just take a screen, a very fine screen, and just pour it through the screen.
Oh, okay.
Like muslin cloth or something?
Muslin cloth is even better if you want to do that. It takes a lot of time to filter through that.
Oh, I see.
If you want all the pulp out of it, do it that way, because it will remove every bit of it through a muslin cloth. Now, most people drink because their mouth gets dry. Remember that I said that when the brain has the most toxins, heavy metal toxins, when it detoxifies, it does it through the gums, the tongue, and the salivary glands. It rips all of the fats out of the face. That's why you see people shrivel up in the face. Because of all those poisons they're dumping out the mouth, and it's taking all the fats in the localized area with it. Why do you think people wrinkle in the face so much and they don't wrinkle in other parts of the body as they do the face? Because it's getting the least fat. It's ripping more fats out of it than anywhere else. There's two things you can do. You can eat some butter and honey together to help lubricate that area. The quickest fat to lubricate this area is in honey. With coconut cream, if you use like 10 tablespoons of honey with 1 tablespoon of coconut cream, it just turns it into a cloudy honey. And you put that on your lips. And as you lick it off all throughout the day, you're absorbing all those fats into it. It'll get rid of wrinkles and everything. I don't know if anybody remembers how wrinkled my mouth was getting about 3 years ago. And I started using that about 2 years ago. And I only do it when I do long engagements and speaking. And just for, those couple of times a week that I use it on that day, it starts relipidating all of my face. And it'll help remove those wrinkles. If I were more vain, I'd be doing it every day. So,
you told me to eat sugar cube size of raw cheese. You told me to eat a sugar cube size of raw cheese unsalted. And when I do it, I love it because when I do it, my mouth becomes so watery.
Yeah.
That I have to keep swallowing it.
Yeah. But that's a different kind of thing. That's getting the poisons out of the brain and into the cheese rather than, your system. And I don't like people chewing their cheese all that much because it'll pull all the poisons out of the brain, and I want the cheese to absorb most of the poisons that are dumping into the stomach intestines. So you don't want to chew it so much that you get it very liquid, unless like this. Now, in order to get this to go down fast, so it was this big yesterday at this time. It was this big all the way over. And my whole eye was swollen up. So I just started eating the cheese and getting it till it was completely liquid. My mouth was full, and then I spit it out. And by nighttime, this had gone down by 70%. And then this morning, another 10%. So you can use cheese as a way to absorb and get rid of poisons. Okay.
Just one more aspect of the question regarding thirst and vegetable juice. If, like carbo vegetables like carrot, beet, or other root vegetables, do they have destructive factor of advanced glycation end products if I have too much vegetable juice? Or
Yes.
is that mostly due to bread?
Vegetable juice, anything, even fruit, fresh fruit, anything that has a high glycemic level, anything that's high in carbohydrates, your body will convert so much of that into glycogen, which runs the brain and nervous system. The end process of the body using glycogen is advanced glycation end products. And your body stores 70 to 90% of that for a lifetime. So when you drink carrot juice, beet juice, any of those high glycemic vegetables, it creates the advanced glycation end products. The only way you can avoid that is you have very and mainly in my vegetable juices that I suggest in the book, it's mainly celery. There's not enough carbohydrate in celery to digest celery. So it's a negative. So you put a little carrot in there, you put high glycemic parsley in there, it comes to an even balance. So there's no excessive carbohydrate, so your body can never make it into glycogen to fuel the brain and nervous system. Meats, when your body uses meat or eggs to form glycogen, it does it with the help of glucagon, and there's a very low carbohydrate index, like 8%. And we can handle about 12% at a time. So it doesn't store any of it, any of the advanced glycation end products, with little it does make from eggs and meat. That's why I say you need to not eat high carbohydrate foods in any concentration before 6 hours past your first 6-7 hours of the day, because the body has determined the glycogen it's going to make is made all for the day in that first 6 to 7 hours. So you have a vegetable juice that's a negative or an even, you're not going to generate any from it. Then you go to a meat meal, which doesn't have any in it, except if you're using a little honey, and only 10% of honey, as long as it's unheated above 93 degrees, then you only use 10% of that honey will be high in carbohydrate. And most of that will go to be utilized in digesting the fat and not into making glycogen. Then you go from that to a milkshake, and you've got enough cream and fats in there, so the sugars and carbohydrates will be used to digest the fat rather than to make glycogen. So then after that you have another juice, so you're not having anything with high fruit on it till 1:30, 4:30, somewhere around there in between that area. So you haven't allowed your body to utilize glycogen, make glycogen from high carbohydrate foods. And your brain will stay clear and functional. If you have those advanced glycation end products in any concentration, it causes the neurological fluid and the blood to get very sticky. And if you see them passing each other, the blood cells, there's so many of them. They're just like swimming together, moving together in this current of blood, and you see them stick together when the blood's like that. And the brain and the nerve fluid is the same way. And you get synapses that fire and stick, the fluid sticks, and may go to the wrong brain center than where you've directed it. Oh, I want this memory. Well, it shoots off into the wrong memory station, and all of a sudden you don't know where that went. You don't have the word or the phrase or the memory, the event that you were looking for, and it's not there because the brain's too sticky. So that prevents that by eating that progression. So yes, if you had all carrot juice in the morning, you'd be screwing your thinking process.
Okay. I noticed in the book you have certain recipes for vegetable juice. Is there any other ones that you recommend?
It depends upon the condition.
Yeah.
Those are the main that anybody can relate to if they have the problems that I suggested there. But you can pick up Walker's vegetable juice, book and then see what he recommends for certain conditions.
Yeah, he's got carrot and everything.
But you only want to use a little bit of carrot.
Yeah, turnips and beets and
you just use
sprouts,
That's what I mean. You just use a small amount of those you're going to use them. No more than 10% of your juice. If it's something strong like leeks, cilantro, kale, any of those that are real hot and strong, you want to use no more than 5% of your juice. Okay.
Somewhere there's like a list of like how much carbohydrates each vegetable, like is that online or something?
Well, I think that the USDA has a book on that, and you can download it. You know, it has an index on that.
Okay.
They have an index on that.
Great. Thank you.
You're welcome. But you know, you use celery, and that's your negative. So you can use higher carbohydrate things. It's just the celery will bring it down.
Okay.
You know, whatever is high. Like sometimes I'll give somebody 20% of their juice as carrot. You know, but it has 60% or 70% celery to bring that down. But I know that that person can handle more high carbohydrates without ending up in the brain. So they have a lot of bile in their body, and that bile needs to be removed. A lot of that carrot is going to be, that high carbohydrate is going to be used to digest the carotene, to neutralize the bile. So you're getting heavy into chemistry there, and you better know your chemistry. You know, you're screwing with something like that. But if you have very yellow skin at any particular time, it means you're throwing off a lot of bile. A higher amount of carrot juice would be fine. Just make sure you use celery as your negative base.
Okay, excellent.
Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I just got, I'm making kefir. So I don't know if it's very good or not, or what.
How are you making your kefir?
With the
Grains?
With the grains.
Okay. I don't recommend people use grains. It's a way to do it. The grains will pre-digest your milk so that you will utilize more nutrients in it, of the fats, the proteins, and the carbohydrates. But those bacteria compete with the bacteria in your intestines. Prevent your own bacteria from growing properly. Will even eat the bacteria in your intestines. So I recommend in my recipe book how to make your own kefir from the natural bacteria in the milk.
Oh, that's very good. Because I was thinking of giving it to my grandson that is 1 year old. So maybe it's not a good idea.
No, that would be okay. Better than anything else he would get. But if you want to build his digestive system, digestive tract, then you would give him the stuff that you would make just by putting a little honey in it and letting it sit in a cupboard.
I'll read the book.
Yeah.
Because he's having raw milk and the raw eggs from Whole Foods.
Oh, good. Well, that's still better than any other garbage he'd be getting, so it's still a big step in the right direction.
Good. And I was wondering about that honey that is called agave. Do you think that's good?
Process. You have to get one that's completely unheated. And the only way to know that is to, get like my list. If you want to know those are confirmed, truly raw.
So you better just honey, like bees.
I have a list,
Then it's okay to just give him honey from bees.
I mean, if you want to know for sure, you give him the honey from the comb honey. Then you know that it hasn't been heated. Because if it's still in the comb, there's no heat to it. Doesn't mean that they didn't use antibiotics on the hive or with the bees. And it doesn't mean they didn't use corn syrup to feed them in the winter. So you have to know that stuff too.
And ask them if they didn't freeze it.
If it freezes, it crystallizes. So, but usually in those combs, they won't freeze it because that'll cause it to become brittle, and then it'll break open and get on, become a big mess. So they don't freeze. Usually, don't freeze comb honey.
So apart from honey that crystallized from the co-op, do I have to warm it up to a certain amount?
No, but you better find out whether it's been frozen to cause it to crystallize. Because freezing destroys a lot of enzymes in the honey. It makes it more on the order of sugar. And James doesn't carry everything that I agree with. And he put that notice up there. It took me 2 years to get him to put up that notice, but he finally put it up.
Is your list in the book someplace?
It's on the site. The order form is in the back of the book. Oh, it's also on the website.
Yeah, you can order it from the site.
So those fertile eggs from Whole Foods, do you think are really fertile, or you don't know?
They maybe the fertile just means that the rooster's running around, getting laid
Right.
before the hens lay, and that ensures that your chicken is not just in a small cage the size of its body as almost all the eggs that you get from a supermarket, regular supermarket.
Because the Lily's farm said that they have like about 25 hens per rooster.
Yeah.
Okay.
Rooster can take care of about 30, but it's safe, 30 a day. He usually gets each one 3 times a day.
Really?
So he'll come 60 times a day. So is that what next life you want? Or you could take the pig who has a 30-minute orgasm.
Oh, really?
He has a 30-minute orgasm.
Oh.
The male pig too?
Male and female.
Really?
30-minute orgasms.
Happy pig.
Yeah.
That's why Muslims don't like them.
Pardon?
That's why Muslims don't like them.
Too sexual. Do you have a question?
Yeah, I guess I'll start off with a statement. I guess when you're talking about the thinking clearly, I have like a pint of raw milk and 6 eggs every morning, and that carries me until about 1 o'clock, and it keeps you very clear thinking.
Yeah, it keeps you pretty clear.
Yeah.
Yeah, meat's a little bit more effective
Yeah.
because in the milk you have a higher glycation,
Carbohydrate. That's
yeah, carbohydrate activity. But if you're using it with eggs, probably balances it because most of that carbohydrate will go to digest the yolk in the milk.
Oh, it's a good combination.
Yeah.
Seasoning, is there a problem putting
But you won't gain weight on that diet.
Well, I'm not really trying to gain weight. I don't have a problem. Seasoning, sometimes I'll put nutmeg in there. A problem?
Well, it's better that you take the nutmeg clove and you grate a little bit into it fresh because, once it's really dried, like they irradiate most of those that are already pre-ground.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
Well, do they irradiate the ones with the actual whole grain, the whole corns?
No, because they don't shrivel up the same way.
Right.
See, and when you irradiate it, you partially cook it. If you just grind it like that and let it sit, it would have to sit in your food an hour, 2, 3, 4 hours before the flavor would come out. So they irradiate it, partially cook it, so to release the flavor.
Well, the flavor gets released when you grate the nutmeg. That flavor is strong.
That's because you're freshly grating it.
Oh, okay.
But when it's pre-grated, pre-ground, it all dries up.
I got you.
And it takes hours sometimes to release the flavor, unless you're cooking with it.
Yeah. Okay, can I ask one other question?
Mm-hmm.
Teeth. I got a situation with the teeth. The bone is starting to go a little bit. Is there a recommendation on what to do with?
Well, anybody as thin as you are starts eating its own bone. It's a very fragile balance because the mineral level usually falls very low because of the fat. There's no reserve on your body. So anytime, any part of the day that your body gets mineral deficiency, it goes to your own bone to start eating at your own bone.
Okay.
That's why people that are very thin, you lose a lot of bone. That's why people in cancer, the body needs a lot of minerals to bind with the solvent reaction from the cancer, so the bones just start eating away and deteriorating because the body needs all those minerals. So I think first you need to gain excess weight to have a reserve on. With that fat, you have a reserve of minerals.
Okay. From vegetables and vegetable juices, that kind of thing?
No, from fats.
From fats. Okay.
Butter, cheese. Butter and cheese together is the quickest way to mineralize you.
I am eating.
Now, he's already overweight. I can tell him to eat some cheese and honey together.
Yeah.
And he will absorb all those minerals. But the honey and cheese have to be eaten together in the same amount. to digest the cheese. In the human body, the cheese will not digest. It'll act as a magnet and a sponge to hold on to the poison and pass it out of the body. So you have to eat honey and cheese together in the mouth to absorb those minerals.
Okay, because I am eating raw butter and raw cheese. So what you're saying is when I eat the raw cheese, I need to eat it with honey.
2 times a day.
Okay.
Yeah. Other times you want the cheese to pull the poisons out of your body. So it'll free the minerals up in your food to balance and keep your bones and teeth and everything else together.
Interesting.
To make everything else work. Because we're so full of metal poisonings from pollution, from food, from water, from everything, that the body is using a lot of the minerals to bind with toxins. Now it takes, let's say you breathe a molecule of, let's say, cadmium from industry.
You drive by one of those body painting shops, man.
Yeah, anything.
Yeah.
It goes, cadmium is almost in any industrial process there is. So cadmium usually creates cancer, kidney cancer, and some other cancers. But kidney cancer is most prominent from cadmium and smoke tars. So you have one molecule of cadmium. It may take 50 calcium molecules, 5 potassium, about 7 magnesium to bind with 1.
Yeah.
So you know how many minerals you're using just to take care of the pollution.
Yeah.
So you have to have a lot of minerals in our environment, especially living in this city.
Yeah.
You know, so there's more vehicles in this city than any other city in the world.
Yeah.
Do you have a question?
Yeah, for about it's better now, but for the past 6 months, especially last summer, I was going through like extreme tiredness. Last summer, I just worked 4 hours and the rest of the day in bed. And then I got better, and then I got a little cold, and it got worse again. And so, and I kind of know I'm doing some sort of detox. But now finally, I'm almost up to, I'm half normal. I'm just kind of wondering, at the lecture thing you said was, what did you say? You said it was like healing. But
Most of your tiredness, sleepiness comes from the healing stage. 90% of healing happens in the sleep state, unless you're a yogi and can get into that, sub-alpha wave where you can heal while you're awake. I can do that, so I don't have to sleep as much to heal. However, when I get sleepy, I just take full advantage of it. But I really don't get very sleepy unless something's poisoning me, and then I'll sleep more. A lot of lethargy comes from your body using the hormones that you produce for physical energy on detoxifying, on binding with poisons. It takes a lot of molecules of good nutrients to bind with just one toxic nutrient. Let's take mercury, for example. One molecule of mercury takes 200 white blood cells or 2,000 fat cells to control one molecule of mercury. It's a lot of nutrients to handle one molecule of mercury. And in vaccines, now you have 56 quadrillion molecules of mercury per vaccine, and there used to be 76 up until a year ago, 76 quadrillion molecules of mercury. It only takes 200 to be antiseptic. So anything beyond 200 is absolute, direct, purposeful poisoning.
Yes.
The government is purposefully poisoning you. So that if everybody were smart and intelligent and healthy as they were 100 years ago, the government couldn't get away with what it's doing. All these shenanigans. So they want everybody weak. They want everybody toxic. They want everybody having lots of babies. They want everybody being in debt. So the two greatest things that they've created in this society to control people, was credit. The rest is vaccine. Those are the two major downfalls of humanity. Taking control of government and taking over. When Reagan got in office, he basically ripped the balls off of unions. He did it while he was a president of SAG, Screen Actors Guild. He negotiated with his all-time buddy, what's his name, Sam? No, the MCI and Universal. Anyway, he negotiated that any film made earlier than 1960, no producer would pay any residuals to any actors, any writers, anybody but the producer. The person who owned the film, not even the producer of the film itself. There would be no residuals given to any film produced before 1960. Bob Hope, Bing Crosby, all of those guys went nuts. All the famous stars, but they were also old, that there wasn't, that, most of them were dead, so, there wasn't that big of a scream against it, but they could have turned it around, even though he had made that agreement, without any vote, and that was the job of the president of SAG. You make deals and then you get a vote to have it approved. He didn't do it. He did the same thing in the presidency. He made deals behind. He's the one that outlawed interstate transportation of raw dairy in 1981. One of the first executive orders he signed. Altadena you could buy in even in Alaska. Once he did that, that was it. It was limited to California. That was the end of it. They deball you in whatever way they can. And, they do it with the vaccines. Take a look at your monkeys and apes. They have huge strength, tremendous strength in their arms, in their shoulders. They can hang and dangle and climb just like it's nothing. We should be able to do that. 100 years ago, it was easy to do that. You look at the gymnasts 100 years ago, even 60 years ago. Look at Kirk Douglas and who was the other one? They were acrobats before they were actors. And you see them in the big circus or the greatest show on earth or whatever it is. And you see the agility they have in their arms. And it is phenomenal. It's just like monkeys and apes. We don't have it because of all these injections. And the children they're producing these days are incredibly weak and incredibly sick because of all these vaccines. So you have to understand the amount of nutrients that goes in to arrest just a few molecules of toxin. So you need a huge reserve. That's why I suggest everybody be fat. And he's growing. I mean, he used to be like, he was out of Auschwitz when he first came. He was very, very, very thin. It's taken him long because, he was a vegetarian and was all against it. And then he just kept eating and eating and eating. And now he's finally looking like he's getting some weight, But you see everybody else is on the heavy side. Now, I'm much fatter than I look. Right now, I'm 27% body fat. I'm bigger than he is. He's about 25, maybe 26% body fat. He's probably about 27% body fat, same as I am. But I don't look it because my fat molecules are very small. I haven't eaten cooked fat since 1974. I eat some cooked ice cream because I was living outdoors and I was starving, and that's the only thing anybody offered me. So, but before that was 1972 before I ate anything cooked that was fat. And fat molecules, when they're uncooked, are very small and concentrated. When you cook them, they swell 10 to 50 times their normal size. So it's like having a grain of corn and then popping it. Yeah. What do you have? A little thing that grows to this big. So that's 25 times its size. Can you imagine if it's 50 times its size? And that's what fat molecules do, depending upon how you cook them. Take like pork rind. You cook it in oil, and what happens? That sucker goes from this little bitty thing to this huge thing.
Yes.
That's what happens to fat when you cook it. I'm very fat. Still look it.
Yeah.
And everybody who's on this diet a long time will look the same.
When you say fat, is like the weight?
No, the weight, I'm very heavy.
You're heavy.
Yeah. When I was this size, when I was on a regular diet, I was probably 145, 147 pounds. I'm 182. Same size. So.
More dense.
Dense, yes. Very dense. Like the gorillas and the monkeys.
So that makes them strong.
Yeah.
So is there anything I should do particularly, or just, live through it?
Well, there are two things you can do. You can eat glandular soups, like I said, and that'll give you a lot of extra hormones so that the ones that you are using to deal with the toxins, and you can also eat more cheese, a little cheese with honey twice a day, 30 to 35 minutes after your meal, and that'll give you a lot more energy.
Okay, good.
Okay. Roger, do you have a question?
Yes, this is a female friend of mine asked me to ask you, women using natural bioidentical plant-based hormones for hormone replacement.
Okay. Bioidentical is another misnomer, bullshit sales thing. The only way you're going to get bioidentical is they take them out of your blood and they give them right back to you. That's the only bioidentical. So again, we've got this chemistry bullshit language that's getting you to believe that you're going to be getting something that's natural to you. They're taking hormones out of a plant. Do you have hormones? Are they identical to a human? No. And it is absolutely preposterous.
So you should buy it, Roger?
If you want something that's closer to the human, you eat glands of an animal, glands of a pig. Pig and the human are the most alike. Pardon?
It's okay to eat pig?
Oh, yes. As long as you know them. As long as he's organic.
How about the organic farms and the Amish farms?
Good. Great.
Yeah.
I eat them. I eat even the pig's intestine to get the parasite. The whipworm. Trichinosis.
I see.
Humans, all humans on Earth had trichinosis up to 100 years ago. Now, all the penicillin and all those are destroying the digestive tract of the human. Pig gets very sick if you remove its whipworm, the trichinosis from it. Humans are very sick. Dr. Joel Weinstocker, the gastroenterologist at Iowa University, started feeding his patients with inflammatory bowel syndrome trichinosis. Found that all of their bowel syndrome went away in 5 days.
Wow.
These were people that suffered from 10 to 32 years of cramping every time they drank or ate anything. Pain, cramping, diarrhea, vomiting, all those years. Stopped it in 5 days just by giving them trichinosis. What are you told not to eat? Not to eat pork because it has trichinosis, right?
Right.
They know a lot that they don't want us to be well. If we were well, these guys in Washington, D.C. wouldn't get away with what they're getting away with. We'd be a country of very strong humans like we were back in the cowboy days. Like when, Jefferson and all them were around. They could have families and big ranches and properties because they had a brilliant mind. And their body wasn't full of poisons. They had, stoves, wood stoves in their houses, and that caused monoxides and tars, and they had some toxins. And if they were using coal, they had mercury and a lot of other toxins that were causing problems. especially to the person who was living in a small unit, a small house. It would poison everybody, and that created a lot of lung diseases and the Black Plague. But in people, with people who had big mansions, like Washington and Franklin and Jefferson and all those guys, they were away from the heat, the smoke, and they had better ventilation and better stoves, they were better vented. So they had better minds, they were healthier. You get all those frickin' injections, didn't have all the medications. Back then it was food was your medicine. That was it. Food was your medicine.
Even though they cooked everything.
Yeah, but still, most of your poisons are coming from the medical profession. And the pollution in the air, and the water and everything else, and the chemicals in the food, the agricultural chemicals. So you had to look at it. They had very few poisons in their body that took radical amounts of nutrients to bind with them. That's probably 20% of our bodies are full of poisons. They maybe had 1%. Anything else, Roger?
Well, there's also one other term, but I think it's bioestrogen and natural progesterone. That's the same.
That's the same garbage.
Right.
If they take a natural hormone, they usually take progesterone from a horse. They kill the horse, or they feed him a certain way, and they take it out of the urine, and they don't take it directly from the urine that pissed out. They stick a needle, or they put a catheter in the horse's bladder and take it directly from there, or even into the kidney. So it's not a nice process. Then they chemically treat it. They sterilize it. Chemically or heat-wise, it divides it, it separates it into a chemistry. You have no more of those live bonds, that cause everything to work like everything's a smorgasbord. Yes.
In regards to the hormonal and menopause questions that you had, I'm 53 and I'm kind of waiting to find out what that is, because since I've been eating raw, I don't really notice much of anything.
90% of the women who go on this diet, menopause is unheard of. 10% go through it maybe for 3 to 4 months, and it's 1 minute at a time or 30 seconds at a time, 3 or 4 times a day for that amount of time. Some women, like Kathy Ornstein, has been going through menopause for 9 years. And but she was injected, and that poor woman, when she came to me 14 years ago, no, it couldn't have been that long. 9 years ago, she was catatonic. Catatonic. Her mother was like a Nazi. She's Jewish. Her mother was like a Nazi. And, her mother was so embarrassed about her, I guess, because she was really autistic. And so her mother was very embarrassed about this. And her mother was never talked to her normally, always yelling at her and downgrading and down. So when I met her, she was like this.
Wow.
Not on medication either. That was her normal state. Huge black areas all around her eyes like this. So she came to me with her mother. Her mother had to come to the console. And of course I opened my mouth, and her mother's right in there, going like this. And I said, you know something, Mrs. Ornstein? This is all about Kathy. This has nothing to do with you. If you can't sit there without speaking, you can go sit in the car. But you can't be here. This is about Kathy, not about you and what you think about Kathy. And Kathy was so blown away with that. She was so shocked by that somebody could talk with her to her mother that way, that as Kathy got healthier, she learned to talk to her mother that way. So you see where Kathy is now. I mean, before you couldn't get 5 sentences a minute out of her. Now you can't get less than 200 a minute out of her. She's quite a different person, and she's a wonderful. Everybody hear her sing. What a voice she has! Incredible, phenomenal voice. She sings in a choir in one of the synagogues.
She's starting to look like a woman.
She started finally.
She started looking a little Stacy too.
Yeah. And she started to calm down finally.
Oh yeah.
It's incredible. Yeah. It's finally getting healthier every day. And I get her very fat though. I get her very fat to get her through this. Probably in another 4 or 5 years she'll be able to be, held fat like I do. But now when she starts getting thin, she gets very nervous and irritable. So she's not ready yet. But there's a person who's gone from canatotic, autistic type state to almost normal. I think that even somebody mentioned that he'd like to date her, and I thought, Kathy Morton? I said, sure, why not? Why not? Really. She's a great person. She cares, and sometimes like her mother, she cares too much. But she's getting through that.
But up till like 6 months ago, after like 5 minutes, she started shaking.
Yeah.
That's gone. This last few months, it's gone.
Well, I put her on a whole different diet to handle that, so it's working a little better. And I only have to adjust her diet about every 2 months now, and I used to have to do it weekly. And not because I called her, it's because she called me. I've got this going on. What do I do about it? I said, Kathy, get another body. Just tease her like that. I can't get another body. You know that. Okay. Well, then we'll just have to make a lot of adjustments.
Yeah, you and her have quite a relationship.
To get fat, you would use the butter and any other oils? Any other kind of oil, like flaxseed oil?
Well, your oils, because they're oils, they have no water-soluble fats in them. So they have a tendency to cause the body to choke itself, to not allow oxygen through the skin. So they can be used medicinally. And they're mainly solvents for cleaning the body. The body will use some alcohol with them to make soaps to clean the body. So it's good to use it only medicinally, 1 tablespoon of one of those a day. Or if you're going to use it for, like a meat sauce, you're going to have a lot of olive oil, in a sauce, to have 4 to 5 tablespoons of sauce that you use on the 2 meat meals that day, and don't have any for 3 or 4 days or 5 days. More oils, again. So oils are very concentrated, so you have to be careful. Butter is not. You can use a couple sticks a day if you want. Cream, you have a cup. So all the animal fats are fine. They will go to feed a lot of different things. Finish, Roger? Okay. Do you have a question?
What's the best source to get raw milk, raw cheese, eggs here in town? Which stores will be?
You mean in the valley?
Mm-hmm.
None.
Where do you get your stuff?
I go over to our Rawson Club in Venice, and we have, or James has, Amish truck that comes from Pennsylvania, an Amish group of farmers that supply us. There are about 7 farmers. And Amos Miller is the one that handles organizing and getting all of it for us. We have a truck that comes out once a week and delivers to us.
Whole Foods gets it's
Whole Foods is all bullshit, literally. Whole Foods is a company out of Texas, and let me give you an idea of their thinking. I called them and asked them what they were feeding their all natural beef, no hormones and no antibiotics. Oh, we're feeding them, silage and grain. And I said, what grain? And they said, mainly wheat. And I said, okay. Well, what form is the wheat? Do you crack it? Would you process it? What form is it? They said, well, we don't know. And I could tell they were lying by that. And they said, okay, who are your producers? So I called their suppliers of beef and found out they were feeding them 15% bakery waste. Boiled and oiled donuts, stale donuts.
Wow.
So I called Whole Foods back and I said, you can't call that all. And then what cows do you know go around eating donuts? Well, the donuts are made of grains, of wheat. That's their thinking. And if you look in Whole Foods, all their advertisements, go organic, go organic. You look at their produce, how much produce do they have that's organic?
How much?
2%. You go into Wild Oats, 50% or more of their produce is organic. So you realize the Whole Foods is nothing but a nutrient and what do they call those, spin doctor kind of advertising company that would just want you to get to buy the shit at a higher price. And that's all it's about.
But at least they have the milk, the butter, the eggs.
Yeah, well, they will carry some of that. Yeah.
How about the New Zealand line? That's still good that they sell there,
Yeah,
right?
absolutely. Yeah, that's good.
Icelandic stuff okay?
Icelandic is fine, but you have to be careful. Often it's frozen from Iceland.
Okay.
Thank you.
By the way, Whole Foods.
Any other questions? Okay.
I will have it next time. I have to go now.
Oh, okay.
Next time. Thank
All
you
right.
so much.
Hey, RJ,
Take care. It's nice seeing you.
Wild Oats is being bought by Whole Foods.
Oh, no.
Yeah, I know. Whole Foods is purchasing Wild Oats. It was said last week. So there it goes. Yeah, there it goes.
I have a question.
Yes.
I find it as I
Hold on a second. There's a lot of talking here, and we have recordings going on, so it makes it very bad for the recordings that there's talking in the background. Go ahead.
My grandfather died from a blood clot
In the head, heart?
in the head
Okay.
when he was chasing a greased pig at the fair. And last July, I had gunshot kind of chest pains, and I called 911, and basically my blood was too thick, and they gave me, instant handlings for it to thin it down, and they sent me off with a prescription, and they check on me every once in a while. I go in, I get my blood drawn, and they have a scale, too thick, too thin, or in the middle, or whatever. And a lot of times I come out too thick, even though I'm taking those pills.
You shouldn't be taking those pills. That's all bullshit.
Well, I got to do something about it. Because
No, you don't. You believe they're garbage that had to do with a heart attack. You
No,
weren't
not a
having
heart attack. It's not a heart attack. It's an embolism. It's a clot.
There's no clot in your blood. Your blood cannot clot because of the diet you're on. It's impossible for it to clot. Impossible for it to dry out. Impossible.
Well, how did I get those chest things? I was pretty concerned that I had all
You
that.
probably had uric acid build up in those muscles.
No, they did a scan and they saw the clots and all that stuff.
I would like to see the clots. I'm telling you, there was no clots in there.
Well,
If you had clots, you would have felt it all the way down the end of your hand.
there were sharp pains in the chest.
That doesn't matter. If you had clots, it would cut the circulation off to your hand. Your fingers would go instantly numb. So they were lying to you. They may have seen congestion, but they weren't clots. You have to take what the medical profession tells you as they're programmed by the pharmaceutical industry. The pharmaceutical industry has one purpose. That's to get you to take their medication.
Yeah,
and that is it.
With the medicine on that note, they give you a film and they show you how to take the medicine and to make sure nothing interferes with taking the medicine.
Absolutely.
So the way I'm looking at it is I need to reorient my daily intake so that it's things that don't cause that problem that are steer away from.
That didn't cause your problem. Your thick blood didn't cause that problem. Do you know how thick an Aborigines is?
Well, I mean, something caused the problem. It was sharp pains, like gunshot things, and my breathing was restricted, and I had to do something about it.
Well, pains in your chest will do that. If you have a Charlie horse, do you think you've got a blood clot?
No.
Okay, that's what you were having up here. You were having spasms in your muscles up here. It's not a heart attack.
No, I'm not saying it's a heart attack.
Yeah.
Heart attack is different than a clot. Heart attack.
Yeah, but the clots cause heart attacks.
Well, I'm worried about it in the brain or something like that, where it kills you right away.
Okay. Not going to happen. They put the average person in fear. Just the way they put you in fear, and then you take medication. Your blood thick is a very good thing. If it's sticky and thick, that's a problem. But if it's not sticky and thick, you're not going to have a problem.
How can you tell if it's sticky?
Yeah, I don't go around cutting myself to see.
Well, yeah, you just prick yourself, and it's very sticky after it starts drying. Then that means you're eating too much carbohydrate, or you're detoxing too much carbohydrate.
Well, if I cut myself shaving or something, it doesn't bleed all over. I mean, it just regulates right away.
You don't have a problem.
So shouldn't I have more juice or eat more grapefruit?
Absolutely not. You got a pain like that, you drink some raw cream, put a hot water bottle there. Make sure the circulation gets through. Because you've got lactic acid, you've got uric acid built up in the tissues. That's what causes all spasms, all pains. Unless you have mercury that got free. Let's say you had mercury in a muscle or in some fat in some muscle and it got free and it burned, that's going to feel like a stabbing pain.
There was a swelling in my leg this time and also a couple of years before that they say, was related to it somehow. In other words, it got to traveling in the circulatory system.
That's the way they're taught to think. Look at my swelling here. See, there's a blood clot? No. I've got a bone situation here from a chemical. Immediately when this started happening, I tasted the Novocaine. And I smelled just like it was after he shot me up with that Novocaine. Because you can smell Novocaine. Yeah. You know what it smells like. That odor came right through my nose once that happened. Don't buy it. Don't buy their stuff. You got a problem like that, you give me a call.
Well, I don't want to
die
unnecessarily.
I had 300 heart attacks between the age of 15 and a half and 22 before I changed my diet to mainly a raw one. 300 heart attacks. 50 of them put me unconscious. No medical assistance at any time. You know what the doctor said? It was all in my head. You know why? Because they look for congenital malformation of the heart or congestion. If they don't see those, they don't see anything. They don't see after an injection, mercury goes and stores in the heart muscles. Every time you breathe, every time circulation goes into there, a few of those molecules are released, burn the muscle cells, and cause a tightening, a cramping, a Charlie horse right in the heart. painful as can be. And they said it was in my head because it wasn't congenital, it wasn't congestive. They don't look for the poisons that they put in the body purposefully. You have to disregard what they say completely. It's like going to, it's like you want to go to, say you want to become a multi-millionaire. Do you gotta go to the guy on the corner that flips hamburgers to get his suggestions? No. He'll never tell you how to become a millionaire. You go to somebody who's good at it, Donald Trump or somebody like that, or J.P. Morgan, somebody like that, or the Rockefellers. But you certainly don't go to your, friendly, corner flapper. And that's when you go to the medical profession for health and well-being, that's what you're doing. Because they know nothing about health. They know drugs. They're legalized drug pushers.
Right.
They know diseases, how to identify what they can see, but all this chemistry bullshit is these formulas that have been created by these people who are paid to come up with formulas, to get other people, to get other people, to get those people, to get other people to take medication. And they don't get paid unless they come up with a formula that says, you have to take my medication. That's what they're paid to do.
So I can just cold turkey throw out the pills.
Better. You know what that'll do? That could thin your brain tissue, could thin your veins, and then all of a sudden you have a bleed. You have an aneurysm. And that's it.
All right.
Take a look at the people. Remember all the people who've been with high blood pressure. They say, well, high blood pressure causes aneurysms, cause heart attacks, right? So they have all this medication for all these years to lower blood pressure. Well, in December, the test from the UK came out from 45,000 people who were tested. Half of them had high blood pressure and was given medication. The other half were not given medication. All of the heart attacks occurred in the people who were taking medication, but they didn't say it that way. What they did was the people who had 110 to 120 the staltic pressure was 110 to 120 had all the heart attacks. Those that had a staltic rate of 160 to 170 had no heart attacks. High blood pressure keeps you from having heart attacks. That's why you have high blood pressure, because you have some kind of congestion in your arteries and veins, so you need to expand them so your blood flows properly. And you take blood thinners, you thin the walls. Then they tear, and you've got an aneurysm. So, all right. That's what they want. The sicker you get, the more money they make. The more drugs you'll take. You take those, you get thinner, and then they have to give you something to counter that. And then something to counter that. And you end up taking 12, 14 medications a day. I look at my parents, and they got these pill boxes, and they're taking about 52 a day. Do you know how much money that is? That's over $100 a day in medication.
Wow.
$100 a day in medication, and that's through Medicaid. If it were, say some Joe Blow that didn't have Medicaid or didn't have insurance, that'd be $500 a day. Hell, I can go have a great time on cocaine for that.
And you'd be healthier.
Yeah, absolutely.
But they also have a problem that they can't patent a natural substance. And so they invent an artificial substance.
Thank goodness.
And the body doesn't like artificial, and that's why they get side effects.
Absolutely. Yep. And they'll have some little, they can only use so much medication before it creates a dangerous reaction. So they have all these other filler, this waste garbage product that goes in with, and it may be, maybe the chemical is 1% of the whole pill. Then 99% of that pill is just garbage. Toxins that you're just putting into the system. And the coatings, how many dyes there are in that, how many other chemicals just in your coatings. It's embarrassing that some of our most educated, well-bred minds are complete idiots. And I mean idiots, that they just buy whatever they're told. It's a shame. There's no science to it. The information is given to them by the pharmaceutical industry, and they just regurgitate it to everybody. Even when I was a kid, our family doctor used to sit there, and sometimes it would take him a week before he'd make a decision on what the problem was and what could be done about it. Too often he would resort to penicillin because he didn't know his whole butt hole around, but at least he did some thinking before he made any decision. These guys, this is the latest thing for that. Pop this pill. Pop this combination. That didn't work. Here's another set. And that's the way it goes.
In other countries, they don't do that, though.
Pardon?
In other countries, they don't do that.
No. Well, they're doing it in a lot of other countries.
Nothing compared to America.
Yeah, nothing like here, definitely.
They give you these pills saying, tell me what happens.
Yes.
Tell me how it works.
See how this works. See how this works. You're a guinea pig.
The pills are free.
Do you have any more questions, Jim? No. Okay. Barbara.
Okay. This is something that you did cover in the workshop, and I must have been handling some situation. I missed part of it. Remember the drums that were beating on?
Yes.
Okay.
I didn't really hear them.
Oh, okay.
I could barely hear them from where I was.
Yeah, I could hear them. So
but you were closer to where the doors and the windows were.
Right, so I was running around with that one. But here's something I did want to know. You mentioned metabolism with pyruvate versus something else in relation to sugar consumption, and I didn't quite get what that was.
Well, I was talking about the citric acid cycle. When your body uses fat as energy, it uses fat as 80% of that chemical combination. It uses pyruvate as 15%, and vitamin C or carbohydrate is 5%. That combination is the perfect, ideal combination to get the most amount of energy.
Okay.
Pyruvate is a sugar made from protein that has no high advanced glycation end byproduct.
I'm sorry, pyruvate was what again?
Pyruvate is a sugar made from protein. Mm-hmm. It's a protein sugar.
Do you buy that, or it comes from a combination of foods? Or
your body makes it from protein.
So you feed your body protein and fats, and basically
it makes pyruvate. So only your diet, as far as sugar needs, high carbohydrate needs, is only 5% high carbohydrate foods. That's why you have one fruit meal a day. And that handles it.
So the point of this whole pyruvate thing what was the point of that?
There wasn't any point. It was just to show you that you need very little carbohydrates.
I see. Okay. Great.
Is honey part of that 5%, or is that outside?
90% of honey, as long as it's unheated above 93 degrees, is converted into enzymes for digesting mainly proteins and fats. Once you heat the honey, it's almost 100% sugar, carbohydrate. When the bee collects the nectar, swallows it, it manufactures enzymes and a hormone-like substance like insulin. So it converts all that carbohydrate into enzymes. When we eat carbohydrates, a lot of those nutrients will go to the pancreas. The pancreas re-chemically constructs them and sends them back as enzymes. So they're not sugar. Once you cook a food, it's sugar. No way around it.
So when I eat honey, you were saying something like you're not supposed to have it over
93 degrees.
Well, the temperature's supposed to be not where you can stick your fingers in, right?
Well,
that can get pretty hot.
No, that's hot. I say if you're heating other foods like milk or something like that.
On the heat
with the honey, well, if it's already blended in the milk, then it's not going to make that change. But if you're heating honey in that hot of water, you're going to damage the honey.
No, I heat the milk first, and then after I get the milk out where I taste it as warm, but not hot.
Then you blend the honey. That's fine.
Honey. Okay.
Because it won't heat the honey that fast. It takes a few minutes to heat the honey that deeply.
Okay. Yeah.
So that's okay.
How much would be too much honey? You said earlier.
It depends upon the person. You have to keep an eye on it. The way you can tell is if you eat the amount of honey that you like, and you're very sleepy and very lethargic that day, then cut it out the next day and see what the next day is like. If you have more energy, and you could do that 3 days in a row with the amount of honey, 3 days with no honey, and see what your metabolism is like, just so you see whether you're going over the top with the honey. Some people have no effect at all. It is all used for digestion. For some people, the body makes high sugar components from it. And that's what you have to be careful. People who don't have a good pancreas may have a problem. But still then, I tell people who have diabetes to have a half a cup of honey a day, because at least it supplies them with a natural insulin-like substance rather than their chemical. So they're still going to have more energy than they would taking the toxic chemical insulin. But if they were healthy, that amount of honey could be too much.
So, Aajonus, how should you eat to get this ideal cycle of fat use and energy burning with 80%, citric acid, 80%? Is that what you said?
Well,
citric acid, 80%?
citric acid is 5%.
And protein?
Citric acid or carbohydrate.
Is 5%?
Yeah.
Oh, I see. So 80% then is protein, right?
No, 80% is fat.
Fat.
15% is the pyruvate, the protein fat. The protein sugar.
Uh-huh.
And 5% is the carbohydrate.
Good.
Or
So
citric acid.
Right. So
This diet is that balance.
Very good. Okay.
All of the fats that you're eating with your meat, the amount of meat that I suggest, all of the fats that I suggest, that gives you that ratio over a whole 24-hour period.
Right. Very good.
According to people's metabolism and digestibility, they have to adjust it per person. But for the average person, that eating schedule, the two eating schedules on page 40 and 41, eating schedule 1 and schedule 2 fit just about everybody. And somebody's metabolism may be a little different and digestibility different for each individual, so you may have to adjust it for that. But eventually, when you get healthy, you'll end up with almost that exact diet.
Okay, very good.
For perfect balance.
One more thing about, the reason I mention whey is because I make my own cheese. So needless to say, I've got whey coming out the...
No way.
Way. So let's say, you said that you should be careful with it, but how careful should I be with it? How much should I...
Well, I think that anybody who has whey, especially more than twice a day, should have it with vegetable juice.
Okay.
So you have 4 to 8 ounces of vegetable juice, you have about 3 ounces of whey, and if you've got high toxicity, something like this, you might want to put a teaspoon of caramel clay in it, and a teaspoon of that algae, chlorella.
So in other words, I could have a little bit of whey with almost a quart of veggie juice. In other words.
Well, like I said, you could add 4 to 8 ounces of vegetable juice with 3 ounces of whey.
Together?
Pardon?
Together?
Yeah, together. Because the whey is highly acidic with all the lactic acids in it.
What is advantage of whey?
The whey helps get rid of uric acid that builds up that causes muscle cramping, also causes you to, after exercising, you get sore. That's urea, that's uric acid that builds up in the muscles. So whey helps get rid of that.
So with his
Bodybuilders eat the powdered whey, the dehydrated, so they can pump and pump and pump and their muscles don't get sore. But it's chalk. So they have all this swollen fat that takes a lot of H2O to hydrate the tissues, so they're blown up with a lot of water.
Is it also pasteurized?
Looks good, but it isn't very strong.
You'll like what I'm about to say. I cramp up when I'm being sexual.
You got a lot of urea. But see, you had a lot of fat on you before. And now you don't have that fat. Your body got used to all that fat, could take all that urea and had a place to go. Now it doesn't have a place to go because you're not very fat. You don't have enough fat on you.
So I'm cramping.
Yeah. The more fat, the less cramping you have. Yeah. Same thing with me. I go over to Thailand. I got 3 girlfriends over there. So one at night, sometimes all 3 on the same day, because they don't last. I don't know. Women just don't. They can't take much fucking, so they get sore easily. So, and when I get into it, I get into it. So, I all of a sudden, at the end of that time that I'm there, I get thinner because I don't have my milk. I take lots of butter with me, and I eat lots of meat fat. But it still doesn't put on the weight like the milk does.
Right.
So I'll start getting more cramps in my feet and my calves.
When my weight's going, the thinner I get, the more cramping.
Yep, that's it. So that's why I like to get as fat as I can before I go. I'm working on it. But the last time I came back, I was a 30-inch waist. In June when I returned. Now I'm up to a 37-inch waist. I'm getting ready. So
on the way, that would be a good thing for me.
Absolutely. That's what I said. Get the urea out, you can use the whey. That can thin your blood as long as you're not getting too acidic.
So every time I have a juice, I could just
put a little whey in.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. And how about whey before I go to bed, or if I wake up in the middle of the night, something like that? Is that?
Don't have too much of it. If you're having cramps everywhere in your body, then you've got urea building up. If you're not having that, you don't need your blood. Thickened blood is not your problem.
That's my problem.
Your problem was you got some urea built up in your chest.
Isn't pasteurized? Isn't other whey made of pasteurized milk?
Pasteurized and dehydrated.
Is urea bad?
Urea is a byproduct of metabolism. When that builds up, it starts, it's very acidic, and it will cause muscles to go into cramps because it chokes off the oxygen and blood flow. And lots of minerals bind with it, so it starts caking. And it can cause blood clots. Gout's the same type of thing, but that's in the joints.
Yeah.
So like a little while ago, I sneezed twice and had a great big pain in my chest. Is that a uric acid maybe?
And for an instant, your body was able to move it out pretty quickly. But a good sneeze like that can cause a cramp.
It's 5 o'clock.
Pardon?
It's 5 o'clock.
Okay, that's it, folks.
Well, good. Thank you.
Bravo. Anybody learn anything?
You think do we remember it all?
That's why you recorded, right?
That's why
you made notes.
I made copious notes.
The regular book.
Pardon?
You have a book on recipes.
Yes.
Are you doing that?
I have one in the car. Yeah, I just have one left. I've got to go to the publisher and get more. That's the recipe.
We don't have that.
Well, you don't have that one either? I have one of each left.
We'll get them both from.
Okay.
So, you're out of touch as far as consults and stuff, right? When you're in Asia.
Well, yeah, I do. When people have phone emergencies and stuff like that, they leave messages with detailed information, and then I call them back. And if they're not there because they've left the detailed information, I can give them my suggestions. So then I just email them a bill or tell them the bill over the phone, the cost of it. Sometimes some people can send me an email with all that detail in it with a telephone number.
Good.
You want to hear from us?
Yeah, sure.
Regularly? Every couple of months anyway.
Well, at least once a week, something like that. Let me know how it's going.
Coming back in April?
Well, no. I have to fly from Asia to Hawaii on the 27th because I'm doing a workshop and seeing patients in Hawaii. So I'll be back the 1st or 2nd of May. And then I'm only back for 2 days. Then I go to Omaha, back for 2 days. Then I go to St. Louis, back for 2 days. Go to Chicago, back for 2 days. Go to Phoenix, back for 4 days. And then go to Washington, D.C. for 2.5 months. So I'm not going to be around much.
When you go to Phoenix, are you doing like lectures and stuff?
I do a lecture and see patients.
Would that be on your website, which I don't...
He's going to have it up there.
I've put it
Yeah.
there.
I'll be publishing I just publish everything 2 months before the event.
So you send emails so we know when
Right,
it's coming.
yeah. I'm going to send you a list of everything ahead of time.
That'd be great.
Okay.
Then we can just put everything on there.
So you won't
Because I don't like to send them out to everybody else until 2 months ahead.
Right.
I found if I do it more than 2 months, they lose
They don't remember,
everything.
right.
Yeah.
So you're going to be gone for...
Almost
you won't be
5.5
around-
months.
Oh, okay, so you won't...
When I get back from Washington, D.C., I have to go to Cincinnati to do a lecture workshop there. And then I go to Aspen, and then I'll be back the end of August.
So we get to fly to Aspen and Phoenix and Washington, D.C. just to listen to you.
Absolutely.
Okay.
I do have people that do that.
Really? Yeah, there were people
I
that
don't
came out
have. There
here.
are people who do it.
People came out here from Virginia and
All over the place. They flew out
Like that
to see
couple
me.
that today, they were from Northern California.
Yeah.
They stayed for the talk.
Are you going to be able to
Like
edit?
that.
You're going to be able to edit the footage? What?
I hope to get most of it pre-edited while I'm there. While I'm here, I don't have any time.
Yeah. We take care of that.
So a quick question. I know that you do consulting services. Can you give us a rundown, like how you do or what you do or what's recommended? Or...
It's on the site.
Yeah, it's on the site. It's all that. Well, what I do is I photograph the irises, and that tells me what's in the body. And then I look at the hands to see how the glands are working, how much congestion there is compared to what's in the eye. It's like a true analysis viewpoint. And then I give people a diet. And that takes about an hour and 15 minutes. The first consult is $300. And I like to see people once a year just so they can see how they've done and the changes in the eyes. So I pull them up there together and they get to see the changes. Like this couple. Not these two come, yes, but I'm talking about the couple that left early. They drove down for it was 18 months since they'd had a reading, and the changes in their eyes were extraordinary. Especially in hers, because she does the diet 90%, he does it 60%. So, and you can see the difference in what he did and what she did. She was overall healing and cleansing. He was overall mainly cleansing. So,
I have a question. One of my tooth here it became loose for no reason last week. Slightly loose and very uncomfortable, no hurting. What could cause that?
Either you have some mercury or some kind of toxin in the nerve, and it was dumping along the gum line and opened up all of the tissue, or the bone started melting the bone away temporarily.
What should I do to?
Did you have any pain there?
No.
Okay. Then what your body was taking minerals out of your bone to deal with that toxicity that's in this area.
So it's going to go back to normal?
You just need to eat cheese and cheese with honey.
Cheese and spit it out part of the time, and then maybe take some more and swallow it?
No, because he's absorbing his bone. If he had pain, that would mean toxin coming out. If he has no pain, that means, and he's losing bone, that means his body's eating his minerals up in wherever that nerve goes to deal with toxins.
So then you want it as a food versus...
Yes.
How much cheese are you talking about?
Depends upon the person, you know. I tell people they have mercury, formaldehyde, and aluminum in their stomach, like from vaccines. I tell them to eat cheese 10 minutes before they eat anything, unless they're drinking milk in between meals. And then with a meat meal, I suggest eating at least a tablespoon too with the meat meal. And then after the meat meal, to have minerals that you absorb from the cheese, you eat cheese and honey together. Cheese is, the honey to the cheese is 1/3 honey to the cheese. So if it's 1 tablespoon of honey, it's 1 teaspoon of cheese. 1 tablespoon of cheese, it's 1 teaspoon of honey.
Yeah, you want to take the cheese, dip it in the honey, and
Yeah.
And how do you get your milk not look like yogurt? And then you add the honey to the top?
Well, this I didn't. I got tired of having so much honey, and it started making me sleepy. So it was time to get off the honey for a while. So it's been about 2 weeks so I haven't had much honey. With the milk anyway. I was doing it to gain more weight, because I had extra cream with it.
I drank some of your milk in the seminar, and it tasted great, and I was wondering how you keep that texture of milk when it's sour.
Put the honey in it, as soon as it gets to room temperature, or near room temperature.
So after 5 hours, I add the honey.
Sometimes it's as early as 3 hours.
That helps preserve it too, so like if you're...
It actually does.
And how much honey with that bottle?
I would have put 2 tablespoons for a quart, so I would have put 4 tablespoons in here.
And blenderize it first.
I blenderize it and pour it back in. The rest of it.
So making popsicles, freezing the egg
Well, that's as long as it's just a snack, it's not too bad. It's what you're freezing it in that's the problem. If you freeze it in plastic, the dioxins get into your food. So, and if you do it in aluminum, of course you're getting, aluminum, and it sits in there a long time. This is like ice cream. When you make the ice cream, you take it out right away, and it doesn't cause a lot of, but it's sitting in there for hours and a day, freezing, then the aluminum gets into the ice. There you go. It's fine.
I let it sit, then I let it sit out a little, and I chop it. I have it kind of frozen dessert.
That's fine.
But I lost some nutrients from freezing the egg.
Yeah, you have.
But it's better than eating
Popsicles. Absolutely. And I have a recipe for popsicles. Is that the one you tried? Fudgesicle? I mean the creamsicle? The spell checker changed to creaseless.
Oh, what is it?
It was in the first publication of that recipe book. It named it from creamsicle to creaseless. Spell check changed it,
I have all kinds of things with that goat yogurt and goat kefir and egg. And using your recipes, but making great popsicles.
Yeah. Good. Sour tart ones that are cold. Good, yes.
or you blenderize a shake in the morning, and you stick the glass container in the freezer, and you know how it kind of freezes on the outside.
Right.
And you keep shaking it and get the ice off, and it can have all the slush.
Yeah. So you get fat quicker that way.
Yeah. That's true.
Doesn't bother me, but it may bother you.
Yeah.
The sheeps in Iran have this huge tail.
Oh, and the freezing does cause fat molecules to swell.
You're just like,
The sheeps in Iran have this huge tail, which is all
Sheep's what?
in Iran. They have this huge tail, which is all fat. Just can't wait to go back and eat them.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Now the lanolin in sheep fat is very heavy. It's not like seal. Seal is so rich that you can eat just a little bit of seal and be stuffed for the whole day. You know, you get a third of that compared to a third of beef, what you could eat of beef. You get a third of a pound compared to a whole pound of beef, and it's very filling and fulfilling. So sheep is the same way. The meat itself isn't, but the fat is very rich and very concentrated.
Have you seen that tail?
No, I've never seen
I
that.
heard only Iran has it.
Uh-huh. Yeah, I've never heard that kind of
It's very
sheep.
delicious.
Yeah.
They make it barbecue, but
Right.
it's white.
Okay, guys.